Gunfight. Eliminate all enemies or capture the overtime flag to win. Move up fire, go! Stay up. Take a breath. We'll go
He
back.
got me on that one. Oh, that's good. Oh, he didn't even shoot me. The heck was he aiming at?
Move up fire, go!
Wow, I hate that. Like the moving, like he got to see me way before I saw him. Oh, he's aim. Oh,
On to the next round. Pick it up.
he didn't even shoot you, bro. Yeah, he was hard scoping big time, dude. Oh, I hate this map.
Damn.
It's down to you. Get it done.
Oh gosh.
Ten seconds. Aggressive in play. Get after it.
Woo! That's how you do it, bro.
The other one's right behind him.
Jeez. I know, Jay. It's okay, bro. I'm doing this for a little bit. I'm playing with my cousin right now. So once we'll be doing some Star Citizen tonight, though.
Move up fire. Go.
All right, so this one we got pistols and fists. Now he got me. Shoot.
Damn. I had him right there. Oh, it's a click. I'm over here thinking it's automatic, holding the button.
Yeah, you gotta hold it, unfortunately. Man. Yeah, well, there was a big update today, so I don't know what it's all about. We'll have to find out. Oh! Nice stuff, bro. Almost said the other S word. Good one, guys. Good one. Good one. We got right now. It's me and KS right now, guys. Getting on with these gunfights. 2v2. What's up, buddy?
Don't worry about. Don't.
And we got Sharklord 257 up in the house. All right, let's get it. Got one.
Hi guys.
You got him in view. There we go. Woo!
He's right behind him.
Yeah. Good job, guys. Good job. I check out their Reddit, and wow, they have a lot of people complaining. Yeah, dude. The complaints in this game is unreal. You know, it is what it is. We're just gonna have to wait for the next Call of Duty. They've already patched what they wanted to patch on this, pretty much. Alright, they ain't gonna be coming that way, obviously.
Oh, where you shooting me from?
You're the
behind the wall.
Wow.
Behind the wall.
What? I shot before he came around the corner. How, man? Look, I was shot. Look, he didn't even touch me. Wow, that aim is just. Call the trash man, please. Nice job,
Wow,
man.
Daddy. Call the trash man.
Call the trash man,
Got that one
bro.
in the hip fire on a second. I didn't have no time to aim.
No, you
Hip
good,
fire
bro.
works the same.
Dude.
We
What
got
was
this.
Fire works the same.
What's that?
1 round for the win. Make it happen.
Where they at, bro? You see him on the right side?
No. You on the
He's coming on my side. Oh, he got me. On your left. He's behind you. Behind you. Oh!
Forget that round. On to the
Lucky, bro.
You just can't. Last one, stay left.
Wow.
Yeah.
switching sides. We're tied up and gaining
Go on
ground.
the
Let's
right,
go.
man.
Oh, so we're doing shotguns.
You have
Oh, he got me, bro. Behind you. On the left. Nice. He's on your right. He's on your right. Oh, I heard his steps.
Took a
I
beating
know.
today. Not gonna take it.
I'm charging the headphones now. Don't worry.
oh, wow.
Well, if you want. Here,
No.
you sure? Can you hear it? I'm stoked about the last year news. Yeah, I'm really happy about that, bro. I did comment in their Discord, and then they said hashtag announcements. I looked. I'm not seeing the answer. See, look how all the stuff I unlocked. See, what's good about this? You're using guns you don't normally play. So look all this unlocks I just got. I got a lot, bro. That's why I said that's what's good about this mode. Believe it or not, this kid don't do too bad, bro. Yeah. He shocks me. I'm amazed. It's like he's a natural with guns. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm hoping good news with that, guys, because that would be amazing. Oh, so not yet. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. All right, little man, you ready? Shark Lord. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and do this. We got the next gunfight. This map's actually pretty good.
What was this?
Eliminate all enemies or capture the overtime flag to win.
I'm a kill yo.
You see where they are? We gotta get them, bro. We gotta get them.
Oh, they're over there?
Yeah, buddy.
So you got that side.
Time to earn a living.
Got one down.
Seconds. Active in play. Control it.
Sneaky little son of a gun. Got him.
I'm bad. I can't.
I thought he was still in that house, bro.
That's what
He fooled me. Or she, he, she, whatever.
Why do we get different weapons?
It switches up. This is gunfight mode.
Here. He's going under. He's going under the pass. He's going under the pass. He's right there.
Last man standing.
Wow.
We're losing
He's trying to go under. And
Yeah. Lucky son of a biscuits. What the heck are you aiming at? Yeah, shoot them cheeks. Get him.
Right, get to work.
Look at this gun. Oh, I love this. Oh, nice.
Wow, Shay, what? I like the mobile gunfight mode. Yeah. He got me. Oh, nice one. Look at this. Look at that aim,
There,
bro.
there.
He almost got him, dog.
Should have hip fired. Don't aim when
The
he's
next
that
round
close.
is
Hip fire.
ours.
This guy's gonna do a turnaround.
Yeah, don't.
No, so you're talking about like the old-fashioned gunfight mode. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it is pretty good.
Hey, he's gonna be coming from here.
He's coming across. Watch it. Remove.
Ten seconds.
Oh, pallets.
Woo!
Hey, take it.
At least I got a kill.
That's how we do it.
Find them and kill them.
Yeah. Oh, this is the P90. I used to love this gun in the old Call of Duty, man.
He just ran across.
Dang it, he got me. How are they getting so lucky, man? Like, I hate the way, like, look how loud my feet was. So stupid.
Lost that one. Step it up.
No, you're good, you're good.
I'm not good with these guns.
Actually, you tapping it reminded me. Last video was Call of Duty.
Good stuff. Once to your right. Watch it. To your right. He just went up into the building.
He's up top.
Yeah. He just killed the one. He's right behind you. He's right behind you.
That's it, comrades. On to the next round. Get ready.
Yeah, bro, man, you are on it.
I seen that. I don't ever look straight. I look at the whole
Time
screen.
to get paid.
Ooh, so.
Got one running to the left, one right. That's tough. Running right down there. Watch it right behind you. Be right there.
Wow.
Get him, get him. There you go. There you go. Good stuff. You got him.
Good job, little man. I told you, he does good, bro. I don't know how he does it.
I got them both. I knew that guy.
Like, this kid's born to be a gamer, bro.
Daddy,
Gets it
I
from
knew
his
that one
daddy.
guy.
That
I knew
generation.
Daddy, I knew that one guy was coming up to the building again. He was
Yeah.
sneaking. I got him.
Wow, man, I'm done. That lucky stuff. Man, that is crazy.
Calm it down. Calm it down.
Hey, how's it going?
Active in play. Control it.
If he runs to the flag, that's what... He's on your left.
We fought them back, but they hit us.
They have more health.
Near RTV. Find them and kill them.
Sorry,
No, you're fine, you're fine.
sniper. He sniped.
You hate it and I love it.
Both went.
Oh,
God.
wow.
Wow.
Oh, he killed.
Wow, hit marker really want a sniper though? Mmm. My bad, bro. Lucky stuff. Man, you ain't good. Go somewhere with that.
This round.
Oh shoot, we got another round.
Let's wait for that. Right there. Watch it. He's back there. All the way back there. Behind the crates and shit. Let's go.
Oh, he's by me.
Man, he's just by me. Back there. Nah, he didn't know where to go.
He's in the room to the right. He's up
Where?
top, up there. You see my skull? He's going to the flag.
He is taking the objective.
He's got it.
Learn from the loss, Tovarish.
Look at that aim, bro. Just drag shoots and gets me. Like, come on, man. Aim right. Thomas, you're silly, bro. What's up, Thomas? How are you, man?
Daddy, I got 5 kills.
I know you did good. Yeah, I'm a little rusty. I haven't really been playing first-person shooter that much.
I got both of them though. My dad died. I was like,
I know you came in for the rescue,
no,
man.
remember I killed it. Look,
The sniper won't.
Got a hit marker,
remember
bro.
when I got the other-
And it wasn't even like that long
when I got
range.
the other one?
What's up, Ninja? How
I
are
got
you?
both of them that one. That was amazing. That was. Knew I was gonna go. One thing.
Dude, what you paid it to?
Oh, this map is hard, bro. Be careful.
That's what I did to that one dude.
Eliminate all enemies or capture the overtime flag to win. Triggers pulled, let's go.
That one.
Dame tu cosita, dame tu cosita,
Not two.
Nice.
Stay sharp.
Thomas, you almost got me killed, bro. Or Jay.
I can't hear nothing.
I would not have done that.
Can you hear them?
These are not on.
Oh, they're not?
I just did that just by itself.
I would not.
Is it on now?
Yeah. So watch it right by the crate. That one.
Up, down. Get it down. Look down. Get it down.
What the heck are they doing?
Answer.
You're good. Yeah, this is the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare, guys. Look at that recoil, man. Like, what the heck is that gun?
I was shooting far. man.
Yeah, it's like,
Sniper.
gun is weird.
What are they doing?
Running behind the crates. He's going your way.
Copy that.
Going left.
Three up, three
Heck
down.
yeah, man. Woo!
I had him in my scope, but you got him.
Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Let's get it. Look at that. I was on that booty, bro.
Man, he jumped high as hell.
He tried to jump like Halo. I'm like, you ain't Master Chief, boy.
Like, how the hell?
He's like this.
I made him so scared he jumped.
I'm going left. Oh no, I'm going right.
He jumped like Bugs Bunny.
Damn, he's right there in the house. Right behind you.
Oh!
I was
Oh,
shooting
man,
that
he
dude.
ran
got
it.
him as soon as I looked to the side.
Yeah, he thinks it's Fortnite. Dude trying to jump. Oh, you know what? He's on PC. Okay, I'm gonna have to get this guy.
They say we do the same thing.
He thought it's some Fortnite.
I run right, you run left.
One down.
One in the house, Actually, he's over there.
Wow, what is that?
Hey. Damn, he's right there. Damn, behind you. Hey, he ran right in front of me. I couldn't see nothing.
Got him.
Good stuff.
Woo!
I couldn't see nothing. He ran fast as hell out that
He
smoke.
he running like a look. He running like a ninja for
Dude,
real.
I threw the grenade. As soon as I threw the grenade, I'm running up. He ran out the smoke right past me. I'm like, what the hell?
He's like this.
Yeah, very true, guys. Alright, we got this, bro. We got this, man.
Got him.
Nice, 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 nice.
Got him. Oh, what? He's coming in the house.
Wow, how'd he get me,
How
bro?
did he get me, bro? I unloaded a whole clip on him.
Look, he be aimbotting. Look at this dude.
Hit fire like
Man,
crazy.
he think he a beast. Okay.
Bro, I literally
Alright,
aimed
let's
him
get in
down.
You still say I'm playing State of Decay 2? Really?
Right.
That's the way.
Why is it saying that?
Yeah, good stuff. That one threw me off because I'm shooting blind. They don't have no hit marker or nothing.
Match point. Another round and we got him.
I know. They're one in the house and one is in the back. I'm trying to
Down
shoot
to
this
you.
one over
Get
here
it
though.
done.
Wow.
Forget that round.
I don't like that
On to
gun,
the
bro. I don't
next.
got no hit. This guy ain't the same.
That was weird. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is match point. One more win. Let's see it.
Well, he's doing rapid fire too. That's why.
that one.
He's on the right. He's across. Watch, he's throwing a Molotov.
Got him right. Got him right. Damn. How the hell?
Where is he?
He's right behind the car. Look, you see him? He's right here. I'm up.
10
Right behind the other
seconds.
car, other side. He's to the right.
Objective in play. Get after it.
Good stuff.
I knew he was coming for it, bro.
Hard ball.
That's how I do it.
Good stuff.
I waited for that. Cause you got some hit markers on him. He knew he didn't have a choice.
Alright, Tricks, you ready?
Let's do it, Shark Lord.
Limbo and Dimbo.
Good job. Thank you, Thomas. We get a lot of points here too, man. And the thing is, these rounds are quick. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Keep it rolling in, guys. Keep it rolling in. Let's go. Which one?
Machine gun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the MP7? It goes everywhere,
Couldn't
yeah.
see nothing either.
Wow, Daddy.
You shooting.
Daddy. Remember Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet? Remember he said E-Boy? That's one
Yeah,
of their
you still hear the
names.
game?
Yeah.
Okay. Keep farting it up, guys. Keep farting it up.
Eliminate all enemies or capture the overtime flag to win.
Gotta get up there.
Overtime flag. Wait, what? Oh, I'm about to say.
Find them and kill them.
Oh, you got one on top too. One on top and one to your left. Over here where those
Finish it.
where that trailer is right there. What is the top?
Come on.
They're making us fight for it. Keep at 'em.
He had the dude in scope, man, but dude
Yeah.
on top and got him.
Look at this
So he was
dude.
able to shoot that.
He had an upper ground advantage on me.
That's what he had on the other dude.
Mm.
I didn't expect.
Wow. Yeah, this is the one I hate the most. I want better guns, man. Why do they gotta give us all this super rapid auto fire weapons?
You know the job. Do it.
Claymore. Shotgun. My favorite gun.
Oh, shotguns? Oh, it's on.
Here. Watch it.
I could do shotguns, bro, all day.
Yeah.
Shotguns is my weapon, bro.
My weapon. I didn't get any of it.
Oh god. Up top right there.
What? 2 hit markers?
Stay focused.
Get out. Lucky, man. Look at that. Wow. That
Fire, that hit fire.
you really don't have to aim a shotgun, really.
Oh,
Thank you for the follow,
I
guys.
suck. Throwing knife.
All right, pistols, let's go. Let's do it.
Right there. Left. It's going. It's right here. Okay, you got the other one.
Behind you.
Behind you.
Ten seconds.
Come on.
Regroup and stay focused. The next round is ours.
We only got one guy doing good on their team. The other guy's crap. This is a hard map. Don't worry about it. Get the hell out of here.
Send them home.
See that, bro? Watch this. I was like, wait, what? Go to sleep. Right. Thank you, AJ. I try. I'm not the best, but I'm okay at times.
Got one. Here.
That's
Woo!
keep pushing.
Keep it up, guys. Keep it up. See, this actually builds your reflexes better. Yeah, let's get the Yahoo! Yahoo!
Got one right behind the wood, right there, right there, right there. Good stuff. Now watch your right, watch your right. Oh, he's up top.
Up there.
He's
Up top. Up top.
Woo!
Get ready for the next
Good
one.
stuff, man. Keep it up, guys. Keep it up. Gonna need to see my target.
Problem is,
You cut the wrong wire, no, Jay.
right on the right.
That's how we do it.
Let's see 5.
They can put the one diamond.
I want to see it do
Oh,
it.
but you ran him out of there. You came out.
It's okay, guys. Match point. You ready for this, little man?
Do it.
Yeah.
We're one round away from victory. You know what to do.
Watch it. Throw it. And turn left.
Noakes in.
Gotta turn left. No, it's not.
God dang it. We get lucky. Oh, no.
Run that way. Run that way.
Regroup and stay focused. The next round is ours.
Oh, he was hiding. They were both on you, bro.
Try to tell him, son.
Yeah, you gotta sometimes you don't want to be in an obvious position.
One more for the
Rifle
win.
shotgun.
Wow, for real? You better camp. Jeez. Whatever,
He's up
man.
top. He's up top.
That part did kill
He's
me.
Right there. He's up top.
Oh, right there.
There you go.
Nice.
That gave him something to think about.
Look at that. Shark Lord coming in with the win right in the base. It's like boom, shaka like a mother trucker.
Should have had a beat.
I won it for us.
Yes, you did. Good job, bro.
Daddy, he killed you. I got the other two.
They're trying to tell him where to go. So.
7,000 points. Look at that. Look at that. Let's get these upgrades, guys. Yeah.
Tricks.
Good job, bro.
I won that for us.
Good job, man.
That's the first time you ever.
Yeah, Jay. No farting. No farting, guys. Where's your manners? Where's your stream manners? Hmm. Now we're just waiting for the next match. All right. So while that loads real quick, thank you so much for that 1 diamond. Hold on, guys.
You want to charge this up a little bit more while we wait? No.
No, it should be good. It said it was fully charged.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think it shut off.
It's about to start again. Like everything.
I know, but it still has a.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's coming in now. Never mind. Hey, Tricks. It's starting.
Gunfight.
Tricks.
Eliminate all enemies or capture the overtime flag to win.
On the computer, you ain't gonna be able to do that?
I'll try.
Let him get on, let him get on, let him get on. Watch out, let him get on.
Kill them all or die trying.
Oh. Oh, I hate this map. This is the one I hate.
Watch out, get out of my way. Don't worry about my... Damn.
10 seconds.
Good wait.
Secures that objective. We have
Wow.
enemy secured the
Flag.
objective. That's
Yeah,
game.
my bad. I don't even know this.
I don't know what that flag. I hate this map. This is the one I hate the most. Thank you, guys. Thank you for that 4 diamonds there, AJ. This one you just gotta kind of wait it out and play it patient. Man, how loud the character moves, man. Oh, wait.
Damn, he was right on top of him.
Wow, really? Behind us? I hate the sound effects. Yeah, I hate, this is the one I
I
hate.
don't know nothing. You can't
If
see
this was a
nothing.
CD, I would scratch this part of the disc.
You don't know where's the end of the board.
Oh
I
god,
did
this
that
crappy
map and I still
sniper.
got it.
Yeah, but that map is easier.
No, it's not.
It is, 'cause you can see nothing. Oh, I see one. What? Oh,
Daddy,
Hold on.
his controller.
I got it. Damn, I had him too. I shot him once.
Did you get-
10 seconds.
Oh, we got a different gun we can use?
Oh, I got them both.
Do not let them.
Yeah, you can hit the Y.
I freaking was shooting dude. I almost killed him. I shot him once. I went to shoot again and my remote went out.
Yeah, they were both there, bro.
Oh, yeah. Got him to come out.
Thank you. 5. Ooh. Yeah, you got 2 weapons. Wow, man. Come on. There should be like no grenades in this mode, to be honest. They can see your scope. Nice.
Secures that objective. They're taking the objective.
He's got the flag.
Damn.
But we
That's why I don't like that flag placement. I don't like that it's in a ditch. Like, that's pretty dumb.
no mistakes, no prisoners.
Oh well. I just gotta get the Dang it, behind us, bro. He's at a spawn. He was by the red tractor. There he is. Nice, nice. The gun is hard to shoot. That's a Desert Eagle.
Damn, he got me from behind.
Wow.
Rose. Use it against them.
Shoot that shit.
Yeah, the desert is one of the hardest guns to shoot.
Pistol with me. Oh, he pistol.
He went around this.
Oh.
First. Oh, he still got me. Bro, I hate this freaking. Please.
Wow, whatever, bro. Look at that. Well, he been had me in this scope, but dude, he never on my screen. He was still behind the damn
One
wall.
shot. It took me 5 shots.
Well, I was weak.
Rебята, they win this, they win. Time to push.
They left the game.
Yeah, they did. Good. Get the hell out of here.
Enemies forfeited.
Dang, right? Right? That's what I'm saying, guys. How's it running for you guys? It running pretty good?
Молодцы, ребята. Well done. Command will be pleased.
Alright, Tricks, you ready? Tricks?
Is that me?
Huh? What?
I thought that was. That is me.
What?
You didn't tell me that.
Oh, on the camera?
You didn't tell me I was lying. No, that's my character right there because I was spinning.
Yeah.
Ready, Tricks?
Yep, I'm ready. You're welcome, bro.
Had me on line here.
I'm on light.
It's running pretty smooth, which is good. Look at the quality difference.
Oh, okay, Tony.
Looks better on Twitch. Yeah, they rage, but hey, it's all good, bro.
Gunfight.
I want to see.
Our enemies or capture the overtime flag to win.
Why can't they give me a point?
Really? He's crouching? Oh.
Hunt them down.
He's on where he.
He's in the back.
Active on the field. Take it.
Wow! How? Come on, man.
See you.
Get ready to go back out.
He's hiding like a little chicken wuss, man. Get the hell up and fight. I hate that. Like staying behind them steps, bro.
to your side. Oh,
Whatever.
Making us fight for the win. So be it.
Look, bro. But see, I don't see that. On my screen, he just glimpsed at me, like, but on his screen, I was there clear as day the whole time. Wow.
Lost that round, but we're not dead yet.
Gonna freaking find him, man. Look at this. He's shooting in like in my outer box. Like, why am I this character? I don't want to be this fat guy. My hitbox is too wide.
You're the last man standing.
Wow, dude. He got hit with fire and bullets and still alive. Guess my bullets don't matter. I hate playing as this character, man.
Put them
I need to
the
change him. He's too bulky. I like playing as the chicks.
Finish the mission. You're the
good stuff.
What? My God, man.
or we die.
Look at this. Like, this is gonna be a shutout.
Can't take another loss.
This is like a bad weapon thingy that we got going on here. Whatever, man. I grew impatient. I don't even care right now. I just want to do the next round. You don't even need aim in this game. Just luck. That's a grenade. Walked right into it.
Objective failed. Report.
Yeah. Well, there's not much you could do in this round because this is gunfight, so... Yeah, some maps are kind of... Like, I usually do a couple of these rounds and then I jump into multiplayer. You know, it's up to you. We can do regular if you want. Wanna do one more? Okay. Yeah, this mode is not bad. But this one has like different challenges and stuff you can do, work on. Yeah, it happens, guys. You know, thank you guys. Really appreciate the support here. Where's my Discord? Let's get going and let's get to be. Oh wait, what? Right. All right, we can do this round. We ready?
Gunfight. Eliminate all enemies or capture the overtime flag to win. You know the job. Do it.
One's going in the top house, top right.
Man, he's standing on top of the table.
Whatever, man.
On to the next round. Pick it up.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying, guys. I lost my Call of Duty touch. I haven't really played in several days. Lost my vibe to it.
I'm stuck on the... Yeah, I'm on top of the window.
Ten seconds. Secure that objective.
What? Come on, man. Look at this. Okay, you got a couple bullets in on me, but everything else, and I'm this stupid fat guy again. I'm like a giant juggernaut. I gotta be this chubby dude, man. Give me the skinny dude.
Going into the house.
Wow, I ran out of ammo. Of course I did.
Oh my god.
You're the last one standing.
Wow.
We lost that one. Step it up.
Like, I don't like any of these guns. Look, no skill whatsoever, man. I mean, this is short combat arena, so I mean, I can't really say much there, but...
You're the last one.
Wow, for real? I'm done.
This is crazy.
Daddy, I think
Get out of here, dude.
I think the explosion was
What
so
you want to do?
big.
Lick my feet, lick my toes?
Kill them.
Give me the tongue of death.
Daddy,
That one, headshot.
Daddy.
Hold on, I'm busy.
Right up top.
Yep. Oh my god, he's in the other building across. He's on a bridge.
Damn, I can't.
Regroup.
It's a single shoot.
The next round
It shoots and then it has to cock it in and reload.
Damn, I should.
What?
I think the explosion was so big in the game it knocked your cap off.
I got blue
Take
straight
this
from
round
that.
so we stay alive.
Yeah.
Damn, he got me.
It's all.
Wow.
Objective failed. Report for debrief.
Yeah, you want to act like you quick scoping because you're so close. Woo. Well, these people play gunfight every single day, so they probably used to it.
Alright, I'll be back.
All right,
Hi everyone. Patrick, ready?
I'm ready.
On. Can we stop?
Yeah, yeah,
Stop now.
yeah. You could.
Look at the map. Oh, never mind.
Let's see. Do you want to do regular multiplayer? Or you want to do this one?
This one. This one.
Gunfight. Eliminate all enemies or capture the overtime flag to win. Let's get this done. Put it behind you. We got work to do.
Yeah, just. Got a kill,
To
but
the next round. Pick
I
it
double
up.
teamed.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Alright, Tricks, you ready? We got this.
I'm ready, bro.
What's going on left?
Wow.
Shake it
I didn't know you died.
next round.
Huh?
Right. Very true, guys. Yeah, I'm pretty upset with this game right now. But I just said I didn't know you died.
Do you want me to tell you when I die now?
No, it's fine.
Alright, Tricks, you ready?
Yep.
One's coming from the left. Got him.
Come on, man. He's on the right. Oh, jeez. Lucky shenanigans. But, oh.
Take a breath. We're going back in.
Yeah, but it just sucks though, Jay. You know, we spent money on this game, so it's like I want to play it. You know what I'm saying?
Trigger pulled. Let's go.
Tricks, we got this.
This is why I don't buy games anymore, guys.
Tricks, we got this. Oh,
Wow, man. I swear to God, I get one kill. I get killed because just the way this game is. Wow. Barely shot me. Oh. Careful, they can shoot through walls.
thanks for telling me that just.
Well, you saw the...
10 seconds.
Dang it!
We're losing ground. Let's take it back.
What?
It's okay, if we don't get this round, we'll get the next.
I don't know if I got much Call of Duty in me left. I'm gonna play that other new game I have.
We're down on match point. We need a win.
Do I
Something
do
more
regular
calm and
matches?
relaxing. Not so much PvP and headache. That's all good. Come on, man. How? I'm done.
Hard day, lads. Clean yourself.
Yeah. I just gave Call of Duty a chance. That's all. I said, why not? Oh, come on, can we skip? Like, why the hell are we still just sitting here? I don't want to enjoy the scenery. It's just nothing enjoying about it. Just give me to my points. Thank you. And my NAT is being retarded right now. Moderate, really? Alright, why I'm doing so bad? Yeah, but waiting a few months would have been better. Go ahead and back out. Just do regular. I don't want to play this right now. Titley lobby. Yeah. Not in the mood for that. I would just want to play regular rounds. Get some actual kills. Ugh. Well, I'm already tired. Jeez, I only been live for what? 56 minutes? Holy man, I'm exhausted. Today's Monday? Crap, it's still Monday. No wonder I'm tired. Usually I don't go live today. Usually I'll wait till tomorrow, but it's all good.
Daddy, how do you select the loadout?
Right? There's loadouts. There's 5 of them. Pick which one you want. And you edit them. Put whatever you want on them.
This is mine.
Hmm?
My very own.
Search and destroy.
Gunrunner.
Destroy the targets.
Wow, there was another one? What? How many were alive?
Next round.
Holy crap, 3?
Oh, Daddy.
What? Look at this guy. Barely even touched me, man.
I did quick play
Search and destroy.
Fine. What's wrong with that?
because it does like all the modes.
No, we already filtered them.
Secure the bomb. Targets. We have.
It changed the way claymores look now on your screen.
Oh my god.
Behind us. Dude, you almost got me killed.
Got him. I got him for you though.
Nice and easy. There's 2 left.
Got him for you. Oh look, one of them left.
Yeah, they got 2 left still.
One left.
Less than a minute. Seconds. Time's up. Move. Move.
How much louder can the footsteps possibly be?
I
They
was,
do it.
I was in here.
Consistent.
Huh?
I was in here. Waiting for him.
Oh,
I know where he's at.
I know. I need to. He was right there.
Ohio Rock. Really, Daddy? His name's Ohio Rock.
It's okay, guys. You know what? Games are games. They're gonna make you mad. That's life. That's just the way it is.
Okay,
We're,
come on,
we're,
go
we're
back to
short. We're
Carl's
short.
place.
Oh my god, we're short. Like, wow.
Secure the bomb. Destroy the target.
Watch it. One's coming. Watch it. Let the claymore get him. You're welcome.
Daddy, you get that area up there, and I get this.
I think one's coming in here too. One's coming to you.
Hi. Hey, grenade!
Wow. There's one out there with me. Just.
Regroup and stay focused. The next round is
You got
up.
headphones on, right? You didn't hear him?
There's a grenade. There was a grenade. Someone threw on me. You're.
Our whole
See it?
freaking team left, bro. Come on. I'm sick of this matchmaking. Like, it's garbage. Like, just do it right. Do it right or don't do it at all.
Destroy.
Me?
No, the game. Like, if they can't make the Call of Duty right, just wait it out. I don't care if it takes 2 years to come out every 2 years. Like, don't make an every year version when it's just the same shenanigans, man. Whatever, man. Come on, they're all A. God. It's so infuriating. Like, look. Guns in this game are just so ridiculous. Good job, good job. You don't hear the one on his right? There's one behind you, bro. There you go. Wow. Must be playing on the TV.
We've lost the objective. I expect better.
He had a flippin' shield on his back.
Oh, look, we were like half a team short.
I know. Look, they had 6. We had none.
That's crazy. The other guys were so bad, they quit. They didn't want to be seen on the scoreboard. That's what it was.
Well, at least I got a kill. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, they mean. Daddy, I can use this for us while we're in the tunnel.
Which one? Yeah, recon drone. Yeah.
It said dead silence.
All right, we'll do one more.
Should we use this since
It's almost 10 o'clock. We got school.
Should we use this when we're in the tunnel?
Up to you. I like Dead Silent, the ninja one. Makes your footsteps quiet. But you have to wait for those to recharge. You can't use it all the time. She really good, right? I'm hungry, man. So pretty soon we're gonna have to get the stream ready for the other game here. So let me just get that popped up while we're waiting. I gotta try not to get so mad. I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Team deathmatch. Get up. Move the company.
What? Come on, man. Oh, it's Team Deathmatch. Seriously, I'm over here thinking it's I'm over here thinking we're playing Search or something. Okay, I'm just gonna stay right up here then. I noticed my sensitivity was tampered with.
Oh, Dad, there's one in the building with you.
Yeah, he got me.
Enemy UAV overhead.
Wow, stupid laser.
Enemy at the center.
You're fired!
Enemy at the warehouse.
Oh, behind you.
Reloading.
Whatever.
No!
No! I know, I'm trying. Wow.
Enemy cruise missile incoming.
It's bogus. Yeah, whatever. How long you been sitting there, bro?
Wow.
Enemy at the fortress.
Jay, we need to get some money on Wandering RP, bro. How we gonna do that, dude?
Enemy at the warehouse. Enemy's halfway there. Stepping up. Enemy at the center.
People just leave doors
no.
open.
Behind you.
Whatever, man. I want to see this. How's it running for you guys? Running pretty good, right? It runs really good, actually.
Oh no!
Wow. Whatever, man. Probably C4.
Come on, the same guy.
5 seconds. Enemy UAV overhead.
I'll poke your head out. You're not going to. You're a chicken wuss.
Enemy at the warehouse.
Wow.
Be online.
Wow.
Come on, a little bit more, guys. A little bit more.
What? I shot you in the head.
All right, we got this. Come on.
Hey, Skits is in here?
Yes?
Yeah, look.
Oh, yeah.
Friendly precision airstrike on the way. Enemy personal.
Wow. Wow. What's up, boy? All right, let's keep it going, guys. Keep it going.
Hey, get that guy with the shield. He's in the warehouse.
They're losing this
It's in the
fight.
warehouse?
Yeah, guy with the shield.
Whatever.
Guy with the shield keeps.
He's a chicken nugget, right? That's what I'm saying, bro. Stop being a chicken nugget before I eat you, bro. Whatever.
Enemy at the warehouse.
Ooh.
I forgot how much I hate TDM. I mean, it's not bad, I guess.
Wow, Daddy, that was cheap.
Another day.
He runs toward me and punched me in the face. Cheap.
Ooh.
Just cheap. Classic. Wow.
Yeah.
Look at this. Look.
Wow. Oh, you threw a knife at you. That's why it was one hit. G for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah, don't forget dessert. Don't forget brunch. Don't forget
Wow.
all the above again.
Wow.
Boom, bada boom, bada boom, boom,
Daddy, you know what
boom.
I need?
What?
I need a claymore.
Yeah, Claymore?
I'm almost at level 22. You know what that means?
Oh, yeah,
Daddy, how do you get a claymore?
I have no idea. Back out for a second.
I just did.
Okay.
Give me an invite.
Didn't work?
Invite. Make sure it counts as an invite to.
30 more minutes and then we're gonna find out what's going on with last year. I don't know, man. We'll have to see. What?
Like I quit, go out.
Yeah.
I can join your game, but I can't because you're in mine.
Yeah, I'm in yours. Yeah, for some reason I can't invite people. And my NAT wants to be dumb. Like my internet company.
Are you ready? 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 Ready?
Hold on. I keep moving so much. Stop that.
Want me to leave?
Yeah, well, I was trying to get skits in, but I don't know what they're doing. All right, guys,
Bye.
give me just a moment, okay? Hold on.
Dame tu cosita, dame tu cosita, ay, dame tu cosita, dame tu cosita, ay, dame tu cosita,
Muévete para aquí, muévete para allá.
dame tu cosita.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and switch it up. All right, so we're gonna be getting on some Star Citizen here very shortly here, guys. Okay. So would that be something you guys like to see? Do you guys want to watch a game based on like outer space? Like, would you guys think that's pretty cool or what? What would you guys want? Yo, the stream's running pretty good. I'm surprised. I'm only running one light instead of two. Green screen actually looks pretty good. Still has the oh, it's not bad. I turn the other one on anyway, so that way. Whoa, I'm so blurry. I gotta fix that blur real quick. Ooh. How come it doesn't auto? There we go. Now it fixes itself. So like the autofocus has a lot of problems, guys, which is crazy. Up in the skids. Where the heck is skids at? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, it's gonna be a really good game. Dum, dum, dum. Your favorite one here, Wonder. Yeah, what was that? The hell is Microsoft telling me now? Don't forget you earn Microsoft reward points by Xbox Game Pass Quest. Select launch app to check out the quest page and claim your points before they expire. We have to constantly claim the points though? That's annoying. Huh. What the heck is going on here? Let's take a look here, guys, see what we got. Bum 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 bum. What the heck happened? What the heck is going on here, guys? Yo, what's up?
There you are.
Ah, there we go. You got it working?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. My bad, bro. Yeah, I don't know what was going on. I didn't even hear it ring. Like, Discord's not ringing for me. That's weird. Usually it goes like boo-doo-doo-doo or something. Bro, this game drove me so mad today, bro. I don't hear you now. What the heck happened? Testing, testing. $10.99 or $10.92 copy? Oh, no, you good.
Yeah, don't forget I got a mic.
Yeah, no, it's much better, bro. And you know what's funny? I don't hear myself. That's amazing, bro. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's cool. Dude, I'm so rusty at Call of Duty, bro. I took a break. I'm so freaking rusty. All right, I'm gonna join you because I'm having issues with inviting people. Bebel's on too. I don't know if he wants to join or not. I can't invite though because it won't work.
Yeah, it's all good. I tried to invite him. He ain't. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, he might be doing his own thing. I mean, we can start up. That's cool. I didn't break it, guys.
You don't have nobody else that wants to play?
Let me see. Chaos doesn't count because he left. I got you, and then I got Bebel, and then some other person, and everybody's like in a party or at the pregame lobby.
So do you want to do cyber attack and search, or you want to do some team deathmatch? What do you?
Don't matter. I'm down for anything. Yeah, I gotta get me new headphones for my computer, bro. Mine broke. Like, I had to put duct tape on it. That's crazy, bro. That's ghetto.
That is ghetto.
Oh man. But the reason why is because right where the screw goes in, it cracked. So like it's split open a little bit. Like it's not completely off, but it's to the point where it hangs out and it hurts my ears. Like I literally get ear pain once I take my headphones off. I'm like, ouch. You missed it, bro.
See, now Bebo's inviting me. Should I join him and then invite you, or?
Yeah, let's go. Oh, I forgot he does game chat. Okay, hold on. Are you able to do both or no?
Well, I have my headset connected to my phone right now. If I take it off, you'll probably start to hear yourself again.
Gotcha. Well, we can do game chat if you want. That's fine.
All right. Well, I'm gonna get off Discord then.
Okay. All right. What is up? I didn't break it, guys. I promise you. Okay. I didn't break it. I didn't break nothing. Nothing. Oh my gosh. Dum 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 dum. All right, here we go. See what we got going on. EBR 14 or MK2 carbine. All right, we got this, guys. Let's get it in. Let's get it in. Let's hold it down. Let's do this the right way, guys, right? Let's do this the right way, the way we're supposed to. Kill confirmed. Let's do it. Let's do it now. Do it good. Do whatever just like we should. Mr. Don't Play. Okay. Oh, what the hell?
Kill confirmed.
Seriously, man?
Company policy.
Wow. Oh, these all penalizes everything, man. Seriously? I'm in the middle of upgrading my weapon because you want to like rush me into a match. Wow. That's okay. Now I can do smoke grades anyway. All right. So right now we got 1, 2, 3. All this aim down speed crap, man. So we need some of this to increase our down sight, right? Because we're going to be losing it anyway. Thomas, you're so silly, bro. Oh my god, I want to play Star Citizen so bad. I might just do a couple rounds just to, like, right when I was about to get off too, guys. All right, hold on. What about you, Jay? You down for some Star Citizen, bro? Totally. All right. I'll be on in a bit. I'll be on definitely in a bit, bro. It's damage range. Man, this stuff hurts our stats though on our weapon. Best we're gonna do here, guys. Yeah, I can't even join right now. Shoot, I should have never got kicked. No. You know what? I might just switch. Let me just let them know though. Hold on. Alright guys, well let me end this real quick and then I'll be right back. Alright, see you in a bit.